星爵為主角嘅超級英雄電影大隊早前去咗韓國展開宣傳之旅。作為主理人嘅 James Gunn 就咁樣形容第三集嘅內容。
To be the biggest and yet also the smallest Guardians film. And by small, I simply mean it's the most personal. It really is about these characters interacting with each other, and the stakes are the highest, but the stakes are is the life of Rocket and the few other characters in the movie. So it's gigantic in one respect, but so emotional and so intimate and so close that it was much different.
為咗進一步揭開當中嘅神秘面紗，我哋同 James Gunn 以及主角 Chris Pratt 做咗個視像專訪。
So as we know about the trilogy, that Volume 1 was about the mother and Volume 2 was about the father. So what is this last final chapter about? What's the emotional undertone of the film?
I think this movie is about the self. I think that, Peter Quill got to know his relationship with his mother and accept the loss of her in the first movie. In the second movie, he got to come to terms with his father, who he thought was Ego, but was actually Yondu, who's his real father. Because that's the person who took care of him and loved him. And this one is about getting to know the self. And that's a much harder journey. That's not about dealing with somebody else. And so we get to see all of our characters have to come to terms with where they are in the world. Peter Quill, Rocket, Gamora, all of them.
So going to finally know what happened to Rocket all these times, like his story.
Yeah, we're going to be able to see his background. We're going to have a series of flashbacks throughout the film that tell you exactly where he came from and how he came to be the angry little guy he is.
James Gunn 揀咗着墨喺浣熊 Rocket 身上，原來當年 James Gunn 開始接手打造呢個系列電影，係因為覺得 Rocket 呢個人物夠吸引，而呢個系列電影除咗出名對白生鬼抵死之外，當中採用嘅歌曲亦大受歡迎。第一集嘅電影音樂大碟喺美國大賣超過175萬張，嚟到第三集 James Gunn 亦悉心挑選電影嘅歌曲。
But what was the hardest part in preparing this final chapter? Was it writing the script or like choosing the music?
The first two movies were 70s songs, so they were all within a very small period of time. I had a much more limited choices. This one has movies from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and to be able to create something cohesive with all those different eras was much more challenging. I was pretty nervous about it the whole time.
Chris, do you get to listen to the soundtrack, the whole entire soundtrack before filming the movie?
Not necessarily. Well, yeah, actually, we had access to all of the songs beforehand. James, when he writes the script, he puts the music into the script, so it's written in there beforehand. It's not something he picks afterward. It's very intentional with the music. So the first time I crack that script open to read it, I have my, my music player right there, and I cue up each of the songs as I'm reading them. The script, so I can get a sense of the tone and a sense of the feeling that music will bring to the audience as they're watching the movie.
電影系列嚟到最終章，台前幕後都相當唔捨得。James Gunn 仲大爆 Chris 喺片場變咗喊包。
What is it like to be Peter for 10 whole years? Like this is your final chapter where you're very emotional on set.
Yeah, it was. It was a very emotional.
He cried like a baby.
Yeah. Like a baby that cries really in a tough way, like a tough.
No, we cried like a little baby, It was embarrassing.
Small in stature.
All the tough grips and the crew members were doing imitations of him afterwards.
Wow.
A little baby.
Will we get to see that in behind the scenes? Was it recorded?
Yeah.
Really? You got to pay me if you don't want it to be seen.
Okay, well, we'll see. I make one of those ugly cry faces.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I might have to pay you on that. It was sad, but it was emotional. It was beautiful. Emotional not only in the process of making it, knowing that this was the end, but also emotional for the character Quill, who's going through so much in this third iteration, this third story. He's dealing with Gamora and essentially the loss of Gamora, because the Gamora that is in his life is one who does not know who he is. She's a previous version of herself. And that's really hard for him, a man who's defined himself on the love that he found with her and the friendship that he found with her and the other Guardians. And so having lost her, he feels as though he's lost himself.
Yeah.
And I will say, and I know Chris doesn't want me to say this because he's so very shy about things, but this is the greatest performance of Chris Pratt's career. He's amazing in this movie. We really pushed him far to get as raw and vulnerable, and you see something that you do not see very often in these big spectacle films, which is just a fantastic performance by Chris. And I think it's true of almost all the cast members. It's really career best for all of them.
Yeah, I'm sure all the fans around the world will be looking very forward to the movie. Thank you for your time today. It's a great
Thank you.